And I'm like, yeah, so, hello everyone, assuming that anyone is here, as once again I do not know, given that there's no one who's actually claimed the little badge, or not badge, the first thing. But if anyone is here, hello, and if not, where? Hopefully someone will view the VOD and say, and will at least appreciate my hello, and if not, where? Well, I suppose that's about it really, don't have anything to say to that. So, what have I got to say today? There's things I meant to say. Yes, first things first. There have been some significant adjustments to the wars today, so things might sound quite a bit different. There has been some sort of issue with some of the ward infrastructure, so there has been a leak in what is essentially a steam valve. So it is just very, very hot down here. So hot, in fact, that I've had to drag one of the buzzing cubes out of the cooling rooms of the spellbooks where they keep cold stuff, or the cold spellbooks, I should say. Which, I mean, it does help keep things cooler, but it does buzz with a weird noise. Now, Lampsys is adjusted how this works, so you shouldn't hear it. But, well, I suppose that's up to you guys if you do or not. But, yeah, if you do hear something, let me know, and I can go through a couple of tabs over it or something to try and quiet it down, or if I'm about to do something. So yeah, let me know if there's issues with that. What else? Oh yeah, we've still got the badges going. You can see there in the bottom right. You have a subscriber badge of a castle being struck by lightning, and then the watch time badge, just a normal castle itself, as you prefer. So if you're looking to, I guess you get the watch time badge by watching. So if you're looking to stick around, you'll get that. And if you want to subscribe, time's good for it. What else? I'm trying to think what else there is. I mean, I've got to still do my little spiel about the rest of the library while I wait for people, so I'll get to that. But I feel like there's something else I'm forgetting. Nasker subscribed last stream, but he was on stream, so thank you again, Nasker, if you hear this, but that's not what I'm meant to be doing. I know it is. I want to go up and see by lamp and adjust the board for the person who gets there first today, but there's no one who's claimed it yet. So that's what's throwing me off. There's no that's normally like a part of my routine now. It's only been 6 days. Yeah. Oh no, I guess it's been 7 because I did take that day off where I was over on the lady who told me no cards channel. Well, the time does fly though. It's been a week. Good. So, I guess without anything else to do, then let's have a chat about the last part of the library. Well, not the last part of the library, but the 65th floor, let's say, the one open floor that I haven't covered yet. So the 65th floor is, as I've said before, I think it's called the Dead Stands, and it is the part of the archive where things go which weren't supposed to come out no more. Like the things that go in there, they isn't supposed to be taken out again. It's sort of like a disposal thing, but for things that are either you can't destroy, or that are too significant for some other reason to destroy, but that never need to leave them. And so it's full of, as I understand it, sort of the worst cursed artifacts, some particularly nasty books. I think there might be some people down there. I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, there are noises that come out there, but that could just be that could just be noises. Now, this place is sort of locked up tight, even after 70 years with no maintenance. So I haven't actually been able to go into. I mean, I've been on the floor, but it's like how'd you put it? Basically, there's not access. What would you call it? I guess just hallways, really. Like there's the sort of access shafts and the lifts, and then there are hallways that run along inside of the place, and I can get into them. But the sort of halls and vaults and archives and spaces where the things are actually kept, I can't get into any of them. There's a couple I think I might be able to worm my way into if I was to attack the wards, but Lamp has been very emphatic that if I do that, we will all die, or that he will kill me, or bad things will happen. But you can see some stuff from the doors. Because remember, these is wizards, so they don't But there's some big metal doors and there's bars and stuff, but it's not all like locked up and sealed away with like mundane stuff. It's mostly magically protected. So there's some that you can see into and sort of get an idea of what's in there. And since we still have 5 minutes, I'm supposed to be filming this stuff. Let's talk about them. So there's a few different chambers of I've kind of taken a time to look at. I don't actually spend a lot of time down there on account of it's through all the layers where the most beasts is, and I can't get anything out of it. But I've been down there a couple of times for ward maintenance and just like, you know, wandering about and getting lost and stuff. Now one of the halls is some of them have labels, some of them don't, but one of them is labelled as this big plaque over the door that says "Non Voluntas Dei," which is Latin for something about not God. I'm not entirely sure about Voluntas. I need to find the Latin dictionary. You'd think there'd be more of them around, but I haven't stumbled across one yet. Yeah, God, are we having more problems again with the music? No, it's just all coming out, Lord. Everything happens all at once. Right, but yeah, so there's that one. And from there you can... Code overloaded, okay. Right, okay. Lord, oh Lord, right, what's happening? And I've gone again, and I'm back again. I don't know what's happening here. I really don't. Let's fuss about a bit with this, shall we? If we even can. Okay, no, we cannot. Okay, bad. Didn't like me trying to fuss with it. Okay. Oh boy. Right, right, oh, is it working? Okay, yeah, okay, okay, so I can't even change anything. It's also as low as it has ever been, so it's not... I don't know what's happening there, right, okay. Just struggling along as always. Right, so I don't think we can change anything, so things might just be a bit rough today. But yeah. So oh yeah, so there's this the one all called or labelled Non Voluntas Dei, and the thing you can see through there is on just one pedestal, which is sort of halfway around the corner, but it's just peeking out so you can see it. There is a vial of blood which is separated into four humours. Which oh, NASCAR! Congratulations on your first. Welcome to the stream. Ooh. Let's go like that for you. Ooh. We are having some technical issues, so I don't know if you can hear me super well. Glad to have you, Alaska. Let's get you up on the board. Yep. I'm doing pretty alright. Things is getting a bit weird down here. There's some sort of leak in some of the vents, so it's getting warm. So we've got a cube that is keeping things chill, but is making a horrible noise. So if things sound weird, let me know. I'll see what I can do about it. Other than that, yeah, doing pretty good. I was just talking about the dead stacks, the sort of area where they put all the stuff they didn't want to get out. No. Yeah, I still got. I guess we're pretty close to done, but yeah, I'll finish saying what I was saying anyway. But yeah, so I hope you're doing well, by the way. I practice talking to people, but yeah, do appreciate you being there. Yeah, the dead stacks. So lots of walls I can't get into. Very, very heavily warded. Some of them labelled, some of them not. And you can occasionally see things through the door. There's the one all Non Voluntas Dei, which you can see into, and the only thing you can see from the doorway is a single vial of fractionated blood that is split into the four humours, which, you know, weird. And there is a room where you can, which one of the unlabelled ones has a little, like, it's like a cell door with like bars near the top. And if you look in that one, something looks back at you. Now, I can't say what looks back at you, because you can't actually see it looking back at you, but if you look into it, you know something is looking back at you. So that's a weird one. Any other notable ones? Well, congratulations on the 20 streak. Good, yeah. It's a little unsettling, yeah. I mean, that's good. It's not sort of it's not an unfamiliar feeling to me. Like, I often get the sense that I'm being watched. I think I got it even before I come down here. It's a good sense to have if you're around. Better to assume something is watching you and be wrong than assume something isn't watching you and be wrong, you know? Yeah, it's weird. Some of them have noises coming out from behind them. Not many. What else can you see down there? Oh, there's one room that seems to be one of the smaller rooms, but the old room just seems to be like open, and there is a key in the middle of it, like floating. Like, how do you describe it? Like, the room itself is a perfect cube, so like same size all around, and right in the middle, like dead middle, is like this key, like golden key, sort of the old-fashioned. What's the term for it? Not like one of the modern skinny keys, but the ones with the big old sort of circle at the back, and you know, that kind of key. And single one, gold, sort of shiny, gives off a little bit of light, and just sort of hovering there, sort of spinning slowly in place in the air. That's down there. But yeah, I think that's about the only ones I've really seen into last. I haven't spent a lot of time down there, and it's all very, very sort of sealed up, so I haven't seen too much of it. But yeah, that's the last little section of the publicly available knowledge of the library. And as to the secret floors below that I know exist, Lamp has advised me that I probably shouldn't talk about those. And when I say he's advised me I probably shouldn't, he has said that he will hurt me if I do tell you. So those is off limits, at least for the minute. So yeah, so next time we do one of these, I'll probably start telling you about something else. I don't know if there's anything you particularly would be interested in hearing about. The beasts, the organisation of the library, certain sections, the stuff I know about the wizards you used to do, any of that, you know. Let me know if that would be interesting to anyone. Other than that, yeah, that's about all I can tell you about the various floors of the library. So yeah, gonna have a quick drink, because the cube makes it very dry in there, and then we'll move over to the book for the day. Right. Anything about the library at all? Okay. Well, I guess I'll just see what comes to mind, really. That's fair. I mean, it's a big place, really. I guess I'll probably start on the books, I suppose. Well, not the books, the beasts, I should say. The books I already covered pretty heavily. But yeah, the beasts are the sort of thing that come up a lot. I'll tell you about a couple of the more notable ones. And then, yeah, we'll go from there. We'll see what comes up organically, I guess, right? I'm sure there'll be like a little thread that emerges where something will lead to something or whatever. We'll see how we go. But yeah, we'll pick that up starting next stream. Right now it is almost 15 minutes past the hour, so anyone who's not here is going to have to deal with not being here. Yeah, it is weird. I should maybe put together some sort of document about all this stuff. But, I don't have a way to do that currently, so I'll put that on the back burner for later. But right, for now we're getting on with Castle Rackrent and our Burnian town. Now, last we left off, we had covered the history of the 3 previous generations of the Rackrents, which were, I've forgotten their names now, but there was the one who was a very sort of generous man and beloved by the people, who went into debt because he spent a lot of money on hosting people. There was his son who didn't, but who lost a lot of money in frivolous lawsuits. And then there was his son who was very horrible to his wife and lost a lot of his money gambling. And now we're on to Condy Rackrent, who is the 4th and supposedly last one covered in this account, who is in the middle of having all his debts called in, losing his furniture, and his wife has just received a letter from her family, who did not approve of him, and who he married in spite of himself and her family, basically asking her to come home, and she's asked him to give her permission, basically, and he's agreed. Yeah. So let's begin then, shall we? Yeah. I was just witnessing the paper that he had scrawled over, and was shaking the ink out of my pen upon the carpet, when my lady come in to breakfast, and she started as if it had been a ghost, as well she might, when she saw Sir Condy writing at this unreasonable hour. "That'll do very well, Thaddy," says he to me, and took the paper I had signed to, without knowing what upon the earth it might be, out of my hands, and walked folding it up to my lady. "You are concerned in this, my Lady Rackrent," says he, putting it into her hands, "and I beg you'll keep this memorandum safe, and show it to your friends the first thing you do when you get home. But put it in your pocket now, my dear, and let us eat our breakfast in God's name." "What is all this?" said my lady, opening the paper in great curiosity. "It's only a bit of memorandum of what I think becomes me to do whenever I am able," says my master. "You know my situation, tied hand and foot at the present time being, but that can't last always, and when I'm dead and gone, the land will be to the good, Thaddy, you know. The land will be to the good, Thaddy, and you know, and take notice. It's my intention your lady should have a clear 500 a year jointure of the estate, before any of my debts are paid." Oh, please, your honour," says I can't expect to live to see that time, being now upwards of 80 years of age, and you a young man, and likely to continue so, by the help of God. I was vexed to see my lady so insensible too, for all she said was, "This is very genteel of you, Sir Condy. You need not wait any longer, Thaddy." So I just picked up the pen and ink that had tumbled on the floor, and heard my master finish with saying, "You behaved very genteel to me, my dear, when you threw all the little you had in your own power, along with yourself, into my hands. And as I don't deny but what you may have had some things to complain of, to be sure you were thinking then of Judy, with a whisky punch, one or the other, or both. And as I don't deny but you may have had something to complain of, my dear, it is but fair you should have something in the form of compensation to look forward to, agreeably in future. Besides, it's an act of justice to myself, that none of your friends, my dear, may ever have to say against me, I married for money, and not for love." "That is the last thing I should ever have thought of saying of you, Sir Condy," said my lady, looking very gracious. "Then, my dear," says Sir Condy, "we shall part as good friends as we met, so all's right." I was greatly rejoiced to hear this, and went out of the parlour to report all to the kitchen. The next morning my lady and Mrs. Jane set out for Mount Juliet's town in the jaunting car. Many wondered at my lady's choosing to go away, and said, considering all things upon the jaunting car, as if it were only a party of pleasure. But they did not know it till I told them that the coach were all broke in the journey down, and no other vehicle but the car to be had. Besides, my lady's friends was to send their coach to meet her at the crossroads, so it were all done very proper. My poor master were in great trouble after my lady left us. The execution come down, and everything at Castle Rackrent was seized by the grippers, and my son Jason, who is shame be it spoken, among them. I wondered, for the laugh of me, how he could harden himself to do it, but then he had been studying the law, and had made himself attorney quirk, so he brought down at once an heap of accounts upon my master's head. To cash lent, and to ditto, and to ditto, and to ditto, and oats, and bills paid at the milliners, and linen drapers, and many dresses for the fancy balls at Dublin for my lady, and all the bills of the workmen and tradesmen for the scenery of the theatre, and the chandlers and grocers' bills, and the tailors, besides butchers and bakers, and worse than all, the old one of that base wine merchants that wanted to arrest my poor master for the amount of the election day, for which amount Sir Condy afterwards passed his note of hand, bearing lawful interest from the date thereof, and the interest and compound interest were now mounted to a terrible deal on many other notes and bonds for money borrowed, and there were besides hush money to the sub-sheriffs, and sheets upon sheets of old and new attorneys' bills, with heavy balances, as per former accounting furnished, brought forward with interest thereon. Then there were a powerful deal due to the Crown for 16 years arrears of quit rent of the town lands at Carrickserland, with drivers' fees and a compliment to the receiver every year for letting the quit rent run on, to oblige Sir Condy and Sir Kit for him. Then there were bills for spirits and ribbons at the election time, and the gentlemen of the committee's accounts unsettled, and their subscriptions never gathered. And there were cows to be paid for, with the smith and farrier's bills to be set against the rent of the domain, with calves and hay money. Then are all the servants' wages, since I don't know when, coming due to them, and sums advanced for them now by my son Jason for clothes and boots and whips and odd moneys for sundries expended by them in journeys to Down and elsewhere, and pocket money for the master continually, and messages and posters before his being a Parliament man. I can't myself tell you what besides, but this I know. But when the evening came on, which Sir Condy had appointed to settle all with my son Jason, and when he comes into the parlour and sees the sight of bills and load of papers all gathered on the great dining table for him, he puts his hands before both his eyes and cries out, "Merciful Jesus, what is it all I see before me?" Then I sets an armchair at the table for him, and with a deal of difficulty he sits him down, and my son Jason hands him over the pen and ink to sign this man's bill and t'other man's bill, all which he did without making the least objections. Indeed, to give him his due, I have never seen a man more fair and honest and easy in all his dealings, from first to last, as Sir Condy, or more willing to pay every man his own as far as he were able, which is as much as any one can do. "Well," says he jokingly, like with Jason, "I wish we could settle it all with a mere stroke of my grey goose quill. What signifies making me wade through all the oceans of paper here? Can't you now, who understands drawing out an account to debtor and creditor, just sit down here at the corner of the table and get it done out for me, that I may have a clear view of the balance, which is all I need to be talking about, you know?" "Very true, Sir Condy. Nobody understands business better than yourself," says Jason. "So I've a right to do, being born and bred to the bar. Says Sir Condy. "How do step out and see they're bringing in the tings for the punch, for we've just done all we have to do this evening." I goes out accordingly, and when I come back, Jason will point in the balance, which are a terrible sight to my poor master. "Pooh, pooh, pooh," says he. "Here's so many noughts, they dazzle my eyes." So they do. It put me in mind of all I suffered learning my numeration table when I was a boy, the day school along with you, Jason. "Units, tens, hundreds, tens of hundreds. Is the punch ready, Fady?" says he, seeing me. Immediately the boy has the jug in his hands. Says, "Come upstairs, please, your honour, as fast as possible." Says I, for I saw his honour were tired out of his laugh. But Jason, very short and cruel, cuts me off with, "Don't be talking of punch yet a while. It's no time for punch yet a bit. Units, tens, hundreds," goes he on. Now, counting over the master's shoulder, "Units, tens, hundreds, thousands." "Hold your hand," cries my master. "Where in this wide world am I to find hundreds or units itself, let alone thousands?" "The balance has been running on too long," says Jason, sticking to him as I could not have done at the time if you'd have given both the Indies and cork the boot. "The balance has been running on too long, and I'm distressed myself on your account, Sir Condy. The money and the thing must be settled now on the spot, and the balance cleared off," says Jason. "I'll thank you if you'll only show me how," says Sir Condy. "There is but one way," says Jason, "and that's ready enough. And there's no cash, what can a gentleman do but go to the land?" "How can you go to the land and it under custodian to yourself already?" says Sir Condy. "And another custodian hanging over it, and no one at all can touch it, you know, but the custodians." "Sure, can't you sell though? At a loss?" "Sure you can sell, and I've a purchaser ready for you," says Jason. "Have you, sir?" says Sir Condy. "That's a great point gained. There's a thing now beyond all, that perhaps you don't know yet, barring Thaddy has to let you into the secret." "Sirrah, a bit of a secret or anything at all the kind, as he learned from me these 15 weeks come St. John's Eve," says I. "We have scarce been upon speaking terms, alike. But what is your honour means of a secret?" "Why, the secret of the little keepsake I gave my Lady Rackrent the morning she left us, that she might not go back empty-handed to her friends." "My Lady Rackrent, I'm sure, has baubles and keepsakes enough if those bills on the table were show," says Jason. "But whatever it is," says he, taking up his pen, "we must add it to the balance, for to be sure it can't be paid for." "No, nor can it till after my decease," says Sir Condy. "That's one good thing." And colouring up a good deal, he tells Jason the memorandum of the 500 a year jointure he'd settled upon my lady, at which Jason were indeed mad, and said a great deal in very hard words, that were using a gentleman who had the management of his affairs, and were moreover his principal creditor, extremely ill to do such a thing without consulting him, and against his knowledge and consent. To all which Sir Condy had nothing to reply, but that, upon his conscience, it were in a hurry, and without a moment's thought on his part, and he were very sorry for it, that if he were to do it over again he would do the same, and he appealed to me, and I were ready to give my evidence, if that would do, to the truth of all he said. So Jason, with much ado, were brought to agree to a compromise. "The purchaser that I have ready," says he, "will be much displeased, to be sure, at the encumbrance on the land, but I must see and manage him. Here's a deed ready drawn up. We have nothing to do but to put up the consideration money, and our names to it. And how much am I going to sell?" "The lands of O'Shaughlin's Town and the lands of Grot, Griffith Calling, the lands of Crookman and the guitar, says he, just reading himself. And, oh murder, Jason, sure you won't put this in. A castle stable and appurtenances of Castle Rackrent. Oh murder, says I, clapping my hands. This is too bad, Jason. Why so, says Jason, when it's all and a great deal more to the backs of it. Lawfully, ma'am, was I to push for it? Look at him, says I, pointing to Sir Condy, who was just leaning back in his armchair, with his arms falling beside him like one stupefied. Is it you, Jason, that can stand in his presence and recollect all he has been to us, and all we have been to him, and yet use him so at the last? Who will he find to use him better, I ask you, said Jason. If he can get a better purchaser, I'm content. I only offer the purchase to make things easy and oblige him, but I don't see what compliment I am under. If you come to that, I've never asked or charged more than sixpence of the pound receiver's fees, and where would he have got an agent for a penny less? Ah, Jason, how you stand this in the face of the country, and all who know you, says I. What will people think and say when they see you living here? In Castle Rackrent, and the lawful owner turned out of the seat of his ancestors, without cabin to put his head into, and so much as a potato to eat. Jason, while I was saying this, and a great deal more, made me signs and winks and frowns, but I took no heed, for I was grieved and sick at heart for my poor master, and couldn't but speak. Here's the punch, says Jason, for the door opened. Here's the punch. Hearing that, my master... Hey, what? Wait. Yeah. Well, you enjoy your Father's Day. I'll hope you have a lovely day of it, indeed. Hearing that, my master starts up in his chair and recollects himself, and Jason uncorks the whiskey. Set down the jug here, he says, making room for it beside the papers opposite the Sir Condy, but still not stirring the deed that would make all over all. Well, I were in great hopes he had some touch of mercy about him, and I saw him making the punch. My master took a glass. Jason put it back as we were going to fill again, saying, No, Sir Condy, it shan't be said of me I got you signature of this deed when your half sea's over. You know, your name and handwriting in that condition would not, if brought before the courts, benefit me a straw. Wherefore let us settle all before we go deeper in the punch bowl. Settle all as you will, says Sir Condy, clapping his hands to his ears, but let me hear no more. I am bothered to death this night. If only the sign, said Jason, putting the pen to him. Take all and be content, said my master. So he signed, and the man who brought in the punch bowl witnessed it, for I were not able, but crying like a child, and besides, Jason said, which I am glad of, that I were no fit witness, being so old and doting. It was so bad with me I would not taste a drop of the punch itself, though my master himself, God bless him, in the midst of his trouble, poured out a glass for me and brought it up to my lips. Not a drop, I thank your honour, as much as if I... Not a drop, I thank your honour, as much as if I took it though. And I just set down the glass as it was and went out. And when I got to the street door, the neighbours' childer, who were playing at marbles there, serving me in great trouble, left their play, and gathered about me to know what ailed me. And I told them all, for it were a great relief to me to speak to these poor children. They seemed to have some natural feeling left in them. And when they was made sensible that Sir Condy were going to leave Castle Rackrent for good, and all they set up a willow that could be heard at the farthest end of the street. And one farm boy that he was, that my master had given an apple that morning, cried the loudest. They was all the same sorry, for Sir Condy were greatly beloved among the childer. By letting them go nutting in the demesne without saying a word to them, and my lady objected to them. The people in the town, who were the most of them standing at their doors, hearing the childer cry, would know the reason of it. And when the report were made known, the people one and all gathered in great anger against my son Jason, and terror at the notion of his coming to be landlord over them, and they cried, No, Jason, Sir Condy, Sir Condy, Sir Condy Rackrent forever. And the mob grew so great and loud I was frightened. I made my way back to the house to warn my son to make his escape, who hid himself for fear of the consequences. Jason would not believe me. They come all round the house and the windows with great shouts, and then he grew quite pale and asked Sir Condy what he best do. I'll tell you what I'd best do, says Sir Condy, who were laughing to see his fright. Finish your glass first, and then let's go to the window and show ourselves, and I'll tell 'em, or you shall if you please, that I'm going to the lodge for a change of air for my health, and by my own desire for the rest of my days. Do, sir, said Jason, who never meant it should be so, but could not refuse in the lodge at this unseasonable time. Accordingly, Sir Condy threw up the sash and explained matters, and thanked all his friends, and bid them look in the punch bowl, and observed that Jason and he had been sitting over it, and very good friends. So the mob was content, and he set him out some whisky to drink his health, and that was the last time his honour's health were ever drank at Castle Rackrent. Gonna pause here to have a quick drink, just to keep my throat properly moistened. The very next day, being too proud, as he said to me, to stay an hour longer in a house that did not belong to him, he sets off to the lodge, and I along with him not many hours after. And there were a great bemoaning for all of O'Shaughlin's town, which I stayed to witness, and gave my poor masters a full account when I got to the lodge. He was very low and in his bed when I got there, and complained of a great pain about his heart, but I guessed it were only trouble, and all the business, let alone vexation he had gone through of late. And knowing the nature of him from a boy, I took my pipe, and while smoking it by the chimney, began telling him how he would be beloved and regretted in the country, and it did him a deal of good to hear it. Your Honour has a great many friends yet that you don't know of, rich and poor in the country, says I. For as we were coming along the road, I met two gentlemen in their own carriage who asked after you, knowing me, and wanting to know where you was, and all about you, and even how old I was. Think of that. Then he wakened out of his doze and began questioning me who the gentleman was. And the next morning it come into my head to go, unknown to anybody, with my master's compliments round to many of the gentlemen's houses, where even my lady used to visit, and people that I knew were his great friends, and would go to court to serve him any day in the year, and I made bold to try and borrow a trifle of cash from them. They all treated me very civil for the most part, and asked a great many questions very kindly about my lady and Sir Condy, and all the family, and was greatly surprised to learn from me that Castle Rackrent was sold, and my master at the lodge for his health, and they all pitied him greatly, and he had their good wishes that if that would do, but money were a thing they unfortunately had not any of them at this time to spare. I had my journey for my pains, and I, not used to walking nor supple as formerly, were greatly tired, but had the satisfaction of telling my master when I got to the lodge all the civil things said by high and low. "Thaddy," says he, "all you've been telling me brings a strange thought into my head. I have a notion I shall not be long for this world anyhow. I have a great fancy to see my own funeral afore I die." I was greatly shocked at the first speaking to hear him speak so light about his funeral, and he to all appearance in good health, but recollecting myself answered, "To be sure it would be a fine sight as one could see, I dared to say, and one I should be proud to witness, and I did not doubt his honours would be as great a funeral as ever Sir Patrick O'Shaughling was, and such a one as had never been known in the country afore or since, in the county, sorry, before or since. But I never thought he were in earnest about seeing his own funeral himself." The next day he returns to it again. "Thaddy," says he, "as far as the wake goes, I'm sure I might without any great trouble have the satisfaction of seeing a bit of my own funeral." "Well, since your honour is so bent upon it," says I, not willing to cross him, being he in trouble, "we must see what we can do." So he fell into a sort of sham disorder, which were easily done, and as he kept to his bed and no one to see him, and I got my shister, who were an old woman, very handy about the sick, very skilful, to come to the lodge to nurse him, and we gave out, she knowing no better, that he was just at his latter end, and it answered beyond anything, and there were a great throng of people, men and women and children, and there being only 2 rooms at the lodge, except what were locked up and full of Jason's furniture and things, the house was soon full and fuller as it could hold, and the heat and smoke and noise wonderful great. And standing amongst them were near to the bed, but not to think of all of the dead, I was started by the sound of my master's voice from one of the great coats that had been thrown all atop. I went close up, no one noticing. "Thaddy," says he, "I've had enough of this. I'm smothering, and I can't hear a word of all they're saying of the deceased." "God bless you, and lie quiet, says I. "A bit longer, but my shister's afraid of ghosts, and would die on the spot with a fright if she was to see you come to life all of a sudden, this way without least preparation." So he lays him still, though well nigh stifled, and I made all haste to tell the secret of the joke, whispering to one and t'other, and they were a great surprise, but not so great as we had laid it out it would. "And aren't we to have the pipes and tobacco after coming so far?" says some. But they was all well enough pleased when his honour got up to drink with them, and sent for more spirits from a sheep-in house, where they very civilly let him have it upon credit. Little note here, sheep-in house, an edge ale house. Sheep-in properly means weak small beer, taplash. They very civilly let him have it upon credit. So night passed off very narrowly, but the Marmon Sir Condy were rather upon the sad order in the midst of it all, not finding there had been any such a great talk about himself after his death as he had always expected to hear. The next morning, when the house were cleared of them, and none but my sister and myself were left in the kitchen with Sir Condy, one opens the door and walks in, and who should it be but Judy McQuirk herself. I forgot to notice that she had been married long since, whilst young Captain Moneygall lived at the lodge, the captain's huntsman, who after a while listed and left her, and were killed in the wars. Poor Judy fell off greatly in her good looks after her being married a year or two, and being smoke dried in the cabin and neglecting herself like, it were hard for Sir Condy himself to know her again, till she spoke. But when she says, "It's Judy McQuirk, please your honour, don't you remember her?" "Oh, Judy, is it you?" says his honour. "Yes, sure, I remember you very well. You're greatly altered, Judy." "Sure, it's time for me," says she, "and I think your honour, since I seen you last. But that's a great while ago, is altered too." "And with a reason, Judy," says Sir Condy, fetching a sort of sigh. "But as this, Judy," he goes on, "I take it a little amiss of you that you were not at my wake last night." "Ah, don't be being jealous of that," says she. "I didn't hear a sentence of your honour's wake till it was all over. It would have gone hard with me, but it would have been at it sure. But I was forced to go 10 miles up the country 3 days ago to a wedding of a relation of my own's, and didn't get home till after the wake were over. But," says she, "it won't be so, I hope, till the next time. Please, your honour." What you call that we will see, Judy," said his honour, "and maybe sooner than you think, for I've been very unwell this past while, and don't reckon anyway I'm long for this world." At this, Judy takes out the corner of her apron and puts it first to one eye and then to t'other, being all appearances in great trouble. My sister put in her word and bid his honour have a good heart. She was sure it were only the gout that Sir Patrick used to have flying about him, and that he ought to drink a glass or a bottle extraordinary to keep it out of his stomach. And he promised to take her advice and sent out for more spirits immediately. And Judy made a sign at me, and I went over to the door, and she said, "I wanted to see Sir Condy so low. Has he heard the news?" "What news?" says I. "Did you hear it then?" says she. "My Lady Rackrent is killed, and lying for dead, and I don't doubt that it's all over her by this time." "Mercy on us all," says I. "How was it?" "John Card was that ran away with her, see," says Judy. "I was coming home that same time from Biddy McGowan's marriage, and a great crowd of people too upon the road coming from fair Croquantoir, and I see the jaunting car standing in the middle of the road, with the 2 wheels off and all tattered. 'What's this?' says I. 'Didn't you hear of it?' says they that were looking on. 'It's my Lady Rackrent's car that were running away from her husband.' And the horse took fright at a carrion that lay across the road, so ran away with the jaunting car, and my Lady Rackrent and her maid screaming, and the horses ran with them against the car that were coming from the fair, with the boy asleep on it, and the lady's petticoat hanging out of the jaunting car caught, and she was dragged, I can't tell you how far, up on the road. It was all broken up with the stones, just as it was going to be pounded. And one of the road nickels with his sledgehammer in his hand stops the horse at the last. And my Lady Rackrent was all killed, smashed, and I lifted her into a cabin hard by, and the maid was found after, where she had been thrown into the gripe of the ditch, her cap and bun all full of bog water. And they say my lady can't live anyway. Daddy, pray now, is it true all what I'm told for certain? Sir Condy is made over to your son Jason?" "Oh," says I. "All entirely," she says again. "All entirely," says I. "Then," she says, "that's a great shame, but don't be telling Jason what I say." "And what is it you say?" "And what is it you say?" cries Sir Condy, leaning over betwixt us, which made Judy start greatly. Another time when Judy McQuirk would never have stayed so long talking at the door, and I in the house. "Oh," says Judy, "for shame. For shame, Sir Condy. Times are altered since then. It's my Lady Rackrent you ought to be thinking of." "And why should I be thinking of her? It's not thinking of me now," says Sir Condy. "No matter of that," says Judy very properly. "It's time you should be thinking of her if ever you mean to do it at all, for I don't you know she's lying for death." "My Lady Rackrent," says Sir Condy in surprise. "Why, it's but 2 days since we parted, as you very well know, Thaddy, in her full health and spirits, and she and her maid along with her going to Mount Julietstown in the jaunting car." "She'll ne'er ride no more in her jaunting car," said Judy, "for it has been the death of her, sure enough." "And is she dead then?" says his honour. "As good as dead, I hear," says Judy. "There's that, and then Thaddy here has just done the whole truth of the story as I had it. And there's fitter here anybody else should be telling you than I, Sir Condy. I must be going home to the childer. But he stops her, rather than from civility in him, as I could see very plainly, than anything else. For Judy was, as his honour remarked, at her first coming, greatly changed, and little likely, as far as I could see. But she did not seem to be clear of it herself, little likely to be my Lady Rackrent now, should there be a second toss-up to be made. But I told him the whole story out of the face, just as Judy had told me, and he sent off a messenger with his compliments to Mount Juliet's Town that evening, to learn the truth of the report. And Judy bid the boy that would go and call in at Tim Ernie's shop in her shoreland town and buy her a new shawl. Do so, says Sir Condy, and tell Tim to take no money from you, for I must pay him for the shawl myself. At this my sister throws me over a look, and I says nothing but turn the tobacco in my mouth, whilst Judy begins making many words about it, and saying how she could not be beholden for shawls to any gentleman. I left her there to consult with my sister, did she think there were anything in it, and my sister thought I was blind to be asking her the question, and I thought my sister must see more into it than I did. And recollecting all past times and everything, I changed my mind, and came over to her way of thinking, and we settled it that Judy wouldn't very likely be my Lady Rackrent after all, if the vacancy should have happened. The next day, before his honour was up, somebody comes with a double knock at the door. Hey, Abby. Good to have you in. We're about 10 pages past where we were, but from where we left off, Jason has approached Condy about his debts on behalf of the man who bought them all, and has stepped in with the money himself and purchased the land. Hey, Abby. Yeah, he's purchased the land out from under him, including all the castle Rackrent and that. And so Condy is now living in the hunting lodge that was first in dispute with them, with Thaddy still with him, and his wife, who had just left, having been deeded some money from the land, which was a complication, has apparently had an accident in the car she was driving away in, and he's lying on death's door. And currently a messenger has been sent to find out the truth of the matter, which is where we're at now. Yeah, good to have you, Abby. The next day, before his honour was up, somebody comes with a double knock at the door, and I was greatly surprised to see it was my son Jason. Jason, is it you? Says I. What brings you to the lodge? Says I. Is it my Lady Rackrent? We know that already since yesterday. Maybe so, says he, but I must see Sir Condy about it. We can't see him yet, says I. Sure he's not awake. What then, says he, can't he be wakened? And I stand at the door. I'll not be disturbing his honour for you, Jason, says I. Many's the hour you've waited in your time, and be proud to do it, till his honour at leisure to speak to you. His honour, said I, raising my voice, which his honour wakens of his own accord and calls to me from the room, to know who it was I was speaking to. Jason made no more ceremony, but follows me into the room. How are you, Sir Condy? Says he. Always and forever. How are you, Sir Condy? Says he. I'm glad to see you looking so well. I come up to know how you did today, and to see did you want for anything at the lodge. Nothing at all, Mr. Jason, I thank you, says he. The honour had his own fair share of pride, and did not choose, after all that had passed, to be beholden, I suppose, to my son. But pray take a chair and be seated, Mr. Jason. Jason sat down upon the chest, for chairs there was none, and after he had sat there some time, in a silence on all sides. What news is there stirring in the country, Mr. Jason? Quirk, says Sir Condy, very easy, yet high-like. None that's news to you, Sir Condy, I hear, says Jason. I'm sorry to hear of my Lady Rackrent's accident. I am much obliged to you, and so is her ladyship, I'm sure, answers Sir Condy, still stiff. And there are another sort of silence, which seem like to lie the heaviest on my son Jason. Sir Condy, says he, at last seeing Sir Condy dispose of himself as to go to sleep again. Sir Condy, I dare say you recollect mentioning me the little memorandum you gave to Lady Rackrent about the £500 a year jointure. Very true, says Sir Condy. It is all in my recollection. But if my Lady Rackrent dies, there's an end to all jointure, says Jason. Of course, says Sir Condy. It's not a matter of certainty that my Lady Rackrent won't recover, says Jason. Very true, sir, says my master. It's a fair speculation, then, for you to consider what the chance of this jointure upon those lands, when out of custodiam do, will be to you. Just 500 a year, I take it, without any speculation at all, says Sir Condy. That's supposing the life dropped and the custodian off, you know. Begging your pardon, Sir Condy, who understands business, that is a wrong calculation. Very likely so, says Sir Condy. Mr. Jason, if you have anything to say to me this morning about it, I'd be obliged to you to say it, for I had an indifferent night's rest last night, and wouldn't be sorry to sleep a little this morning. I have only 3 words to say, and those more of consequence to you, Sir Condy, than me. You are a little cool, I observe, but I hope you will not be offended at what I have brought here in my pocket. And he pulls out 2 long rolls, and showers down golden guineas upon the bed. What's this? Says Sir Condy. It's long since, but his pride stops him. All these are your lawful property this minute. All these are your lawful property this minute, Sir Condy, if you please, said Jason. Not for nothing, I'm sure, says Sir Condy, and laughs a little. Nothing for nothing, or I'm under a mistake with you, Jason. Ah, Sir Condy, we'll not be indulging ourselves in any unpleasant retrospects, says Jason. It's my present intention to behave, as I'm sure you will, like a gentleman in this affair. Here's 200 guineas and a third, I mean to add, if you think proper to make over to me all your right and title of those lands that you know of. I'll consider it, said my master, and a great deal more that I were tired of listening to was said by Jason, and all that and the sight of the ready cash upon the bed worked with his honour, and the short and long of it was, Sir Condy gathered up the golden guineas and tied them in in an handkerchief and signed some paper Jason brought with him as usual, and there were an end of the business. Jason took himself away, and my master turned himself round and fell asleep again. I soon found what had put Jason in such an hurry to conclude this business. The little gossoon who we had sent off the day before with my master's compliments to Mount Juliet town, and the know how my lady did after her accident, was stopped early this morning, coming back with his answer, through O'Shaughlin's town, at Castle Rackrent by my son Jason, and questioned of all he knew of my lady from the servants at Mount Juliet's town. And the gossoon told him my lady Rackrent would not expect to live overnight, so Jason thought it hard time to move into the lodge, and make it his bargain with my master about the jointure before it should be too late, and before the little gossoon should reach us with the news. My master was greatly vexed, that is, I may say, as much as ever I have seen him, when he found out how he had been taken in. But it was some comfort to have the ready cash for immediate consumption in the house anyway. And when Judy come up in the evening and brought the child to see his honour, he unties the handkerchief, and God bless him, where it were little or much he had, 'twas all the same with him, he gives them all round guineas apiece. Hold up your head, says my sister to Judy, as Sir Condy were busy filling out a glass of punch for his eldest boy. Hold up your head, Judy, for who knows what we may live to see you yet at the head of the Castle Rackrent estate. Maybe so, says she, but not the way you're thinking of. I does not rightly understand which way Judy were looking when she makes this speech, till a while after. Why, Thaddy, you're telling me yesterday that Sir Condy had sold all entirely to Jason. Where does all the guineas in the handkerchief come from? The purchase money of my lady's jointure, says I. Judy looked a little bit puzzled at this. A penny for your thoughts, Judy? Says my sister. Ah, to be sure, Sir Condy is drinking her health. Here at the table in the room, drinking with the excisemen and the gorger who come up with to see his honour, and we were standing over the fire in the kitchen. And not much care is he who's drinking my health or not, says Judy. And there's not Sir Condy I'm thinking of, with all your jokes, whatever he is of me. Sure you wouldn't receive to be the Lady Rackrent, Judy, if you had the offer, says I. But if I could do better, says she. How better, says I, and my sister both at once. How better, says she. Why, what significance it be to be Lady Rackrent in no castle? Sure, what good is a car and no horse to drive? And where will you get yours, Judy, says I. Ne'er you mind that, says she. May it be that your own son Jason might find that. Jason, says I, don't be trusting him, Judy. Sir Condy, as I've good reason to know, spoke well of you, when Jason spoke very indifferently of you, Judy. No matter, says Judy. As often men speak to the contrary, just to what they think to us. And you're the same way of them, then, no doubt, I answers. They don't be denying it, Judy, for I think the better of you for it, and shouldn't be proud to call you the daughter of a sister's son of mine if I was to hear you talk ungrateful, and in any way disrespectful of his honour. What disrespect? Says she, as he had rather it were my luck to be the wife of another man. You have no luck, mind my word, Judy, says I. And all I remembered about my poor master's goodness in tossing up for her afore he married, had all come across me, and I had a choking in my throat that hindered me to say more. Better luck anyhow, Thaddy, says she, and to be like some folk, following the fortunes of them that have none left. A king and glory, says I. Hear the pride and ungratitude of her, and he given his last guineas but a minute ago to her childer. She with a fine shawl on her he made a present of but yesterday. I troth, Judy, you're wrong now, says my sister, looking at the shawl. I was not wrong yesterday, then, says she, to be telling me I was greatly altered to affront to me. But Judy, says I, what is it brings you here at all, then, in the manner you're in? Is it to make Jason think the better of you? I'll tell you no more of my secrets, laddie, says she. Nor would have told you this much if had I taken you for such an unnatural fader as I find you are. Nor I wish for your own son preferred to another's. I troth you are wrong now, Fatty, says my sister. Well, I never so put to it in my life between these women's, and my son and my master, and I felt and thought just now I could not, upon my conscience, tell which were the wrong from the right. So I said not a word more, but were only glad his honour had not the luck to hear all Judy had been saying to him, for I reckon it would have gone nigh to break his heart. Not that I was opinion he cared for her as much as she had and my sister fancied. The ingratitude of the old from Judy might not please him, and he could now stand the notion of not being well spoken of a beloved lot behind his back. Fortunately for all the parties concerned, he was so much elevated at this time there were no danger of his understanding anything, even if it had reached his ears. There was a great honour at the lodge since my master and Captain Moneygall were in together. He used to belong originally to the celebrated Sir Patrick, his ancestor, and his honour were fond often of telling the story that he learned from me when a child. As Sir Patrick drank the fill of this horn without stopping, and this was what no other man afore or since could without drawing breath. Now Sir Condy challenged the gorger, who seemed to think little of the horn, to swallow the contents and filled it to the brim with punch, and the gorger said it was what he could not do for nothing. He'd hold Sir Condy 100 guineas, he'd do it. Done, says my master. I'll lay you 100 golden guineas to a tester, you don't. I know your tester is sixpence, from the French word tete and head, a piece of silver stamped with the head, which in old French were called une testion, and which are about the value of an old English sixpence. Tester is used in Shakespeare. Done, says the gorger, and done enough between two gentlemen. The gorger were cast, and my master won the bet, and though he'd won 100 guineas, but by the word that were adjudged to be only a tester, that was his due by the exciseman. They all want to win. They were well pleased, and I'm glad to see him in such spirits again. Going to pause quickly, have a swallow of water. The gorger, bad luck to him, with the man that next proposed to my master to try himself could he take out the drop contents of the great horn. Sir Patrick's horn, said his honour. Hand it to me. I'll hold you your own bet over again, and I'll swallow it. Done, says the gorger. I'll lay anything you want. At all, you'll do no such thing. 100 guineas to sixpence, I do, says he, bringing me the handkerchief. I was loth, knowing he meant the handkerchief with the gold in it, to bring it out in such company, and his honour not very well able to reckon it. Bring me the handkerchief then, Thaddy, says he, and stamps with his foot. So with that I pulls out of my greatcoat pocket, where I put it for safety. How it grieved me to see the guineas counted upon the table, and then the last my master had. Says Sir Condy to me, your hand is steadier than mine tonight, old Thaddy. And that's, I wonder, fill you the horn for me, and so wishing his honour success I did, but I filled it little thinking of what would befall him. They swallow it down and drops like the one shot. We lift him up, and we were speechless and quite black in the face. We put him to bed, and in a short time he wakened raving with a fever on his brain. It's shocking to see her here. Judy, have you no touch of feeling? Won't you stay to help us nurse them, says I to her. And she putting on her shoulder to go out the house. I'm frightened to see him, says she, and wouldn't or couldn't stay in it. And what use? He can't last till morning. With that she run off. There were none but my sister and myself left to hear of all the many friends he had. The fever come and went, and lasted 5 days. And the 6th, he was sensible for a few minutes, and said to me, knowing me very well, I'm in burning pain all within inside me, Thaddy. I could not speak. My sister asked him, would he have this thing or t'other to do him good? No, says he, nothing will do me good no more. And he gave a terrible screech with the torture he were in. Then again a minute's ease. Brought to this by drink, he says. Where are all my friends? Where's Judy? Gone, eh? Aye, Sir Condy has been the fool all his days, said he. And these was his last words he spoke, and he died. He had but a very poor funeral after all. If you want to know any more, I'm not very well able to tell you, but my lady Rackrent did not die, as was suspected of her, but were only disfigured in the face, hereafter by the fall, and bruises she got. And she and Jason, immediately after my poor master's death, set about going to law about that jointure, the memorandum not being on stamped paper. Some say it is not worth nothing, others again say it may do. Others say Jason won't have the lands at any rate. Many wish it so for my part. No, many wish it so. For my part, I'm tired of wishing anything in this world, after all I've seen in it. But I'll say nothing. It'll be folly to be getting myself ill will in my old age. And I'll pause there, because we're about 30 seconds from an ad break, which call it, is a good stopping point for any reason. Yeah. We're only about 10 pages from the end now, so probably another half hour or so before we're done. And then I'll see if I feel about. I'll see about maybe doing the ghost stories or not. I'm not sure about them really. Oof. Right. Okay, so 3 minutes on, and we got what you call it? What we got? What are we about? Lord, oh Lord. Oh. Thank you for the hydrate, Mask. I'll have another one. I never do know how these what you call them? These ad breaks work, or whether people get them or not. It seems very hit and miss, but I don't know. I have them set where they is because they with the 3 minutes is supposed to, it stops you getting the pre-rolls, which I'm told is very annoying to people. I think it would be annoying to me if I was to have them, but I sometimes wonder if it's worth it. The ads don't really do me much good, and I don't know. They just seem to slow things down. I just don't know. Bleh. Anyway, I hope everyone's doing alright tonight. It's a bit of an odd story. It's not not my favourite, I must admit, but I hope you're getting something out of it. It's not boring or anything. It's just a little. Well, maybe it is boring actually. What else am I trying to say really? I just don't know really. I mean, the real stuff is fairly interesting, I think, but it's just an account of lives really. It's a little bit sad and a little bit complicated, and there are ups and down points, but it's just a very sort of I almost want to say banal sort of story, right? But yeah, it's I just don't know what to think of it really. How's the outbreak going? 30 seconds or so. Yeah. Okay, 4 seconds left. I'm looking for water. Okay. Right, we're back. Oh dear. Hang on one sec. I think I have beasts. I am going to have to take a 2-minute quick break. I will be right back. Sorry about that. Right, sorry about that. I think it was just. I don't think there was a beast after all. I think it was just sort of background noise that I mentioned, sort of spooking me. But you can never be too careful. My words is acting funny. Right, okay. But yeah, back to it then. And yeah. It'll be folly getting myself ill will at my old age. Jason did not marry, nor think of marrying Judy, as I prophesied, and I'm not sorry for it. Who is? As for all I have here set down from memory and hearsay of the family, there's nothing but truth in it from beginning to end. That you may depend on. Where's the use of telling lies about the things which everybody knows as well as I do? The editor could have readily made the catastrophe of Sir Condy's history more dramatic and more pathetic if he thought it allowable to varnish the plain round tale of faithful Faddy. He lays it before the English reader as a specimen of manners and characters which are perhaps unknown in England. Indeed, the domestic habits of no nations in Europe were less known to the English than those of their sister country till within those few years. Mr. Young's picture of Ireland and his tour through that country were the first faithful portrait of its inhabitants. All the features in the foregoing sketch were taken from life, and they are characteristic of that mixture of quickness, simplicity, cunning, carelessness, dissipation, disinterestedness, shrewdness and blunder, which in different forms and with various success has been brought upon the stage or delineated in novels. It is a problem with difficult solution to determine whether a union will hasten or retard the amelioration of the country. A few gentlemen of education who now reside in this country will resort to England. They are few, but they are in nothing inferior to men of the same rank in Great Britain. The best that can happen will be the introduction of British manufacturers in their place. Did the Warwickshire militia, who were chiefly artisans, teach the Irish to drink beer, or did they learn from the Irish how to drink whisky? And that's the end of the section, and there's a new heading here. So there's about 10 pages left from what I can tell, so I will make my little commentary upon this section of the book, I suppose, which is the Life and Times of Sir Condy Rackrent, who is, I don't really know what to make of him. I mean, certainly he's as miserable a person as any of them. I mean, he's sort of the last in the line, and he sort of delineates. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to sell sometimes with Faddy's thing, because he seems very affable. But he's also, I mean, I guess the biggest problem with him is that he's a bit of a wishy-washy drunk. He don't care about the business, he don't touch on the business, he makes his biggest decision by flipping a coin on it. And he, just waves everything off and lets it be, lets it sit and get worse. Which, I mean, is an understandable flaw to have. It's a very easy thing to let things get by, but, well, it don't half make you think, I don't know what to say about it, really. Don't half make you think, I'll say that much. Still, he doesn't seem as bad as Kit, or as Kit than me, the last one. He wasn't cruel or mean, just a bit stupid. Which I suppose is enough of a sin to hang a man, eh? Anyway, I'll have another quick swallow of water before we press on. I'm not really sure what can be left of this tale, but we'll push through it and see what we get. So, advertisement to the English reader. Some friends who have seen Thaddy's history since it has been printed have suggested to the editor that many of the terms and idiomatic phrases with which it abounds could not be unintelligible to the English reader without further explanation. The editor has therefore furnished the following glossary. Oh, never mind, the whole rest of this is just a glossary, which is... Lord almighty. It's just going for and explaining... It's not even explaining the same things that were in the sort of footnotes. These are just different. These are all sort of... I noticed there were little G's in the text, but I wasn't sure what they were. I guess this explains it, but it's just going through and at various different pages explaining what a specific reference was made. That I must admit I never noticed that there was a miss of them. So, I don't think I will read through the glossary. It's a glossary. It's just a bit weird. Okay, well, in which case that is actually the end of it, and I'm mistaken. So let's do a little bit more of a summary, since that was actually the end. But I mean, between that and the summary of the first chapter, we have really covered most of it, if I'm honest. Each of the Rackrents is a deeply flawed person in their own way, although some of them in more ways than others. Your first one, Sir Patrick, who is just an over-generous host, is a sort of likeable person who, you know, obviously it costs him everything, but he's not making any grave sins of cruelty or anything. He's just a little excessive, which he can't really afford to be, unfortunately. The rest, the second one, whose name, or Murto, that was it. So I just had the issue of being, what's the term? Litigious, that's the one. He's too quick to make legal arguments and not very good at them, so he just lost out. And spent money he didn't have after them. His funny little obsessions. Kit, obviously, he was a gambler, and he was the worst of them, I think. Though he was spoken highly of and apparently esteemed pretty well in the county. That he was cruel to his wife, he spent all his money on gambling and did not keep well to it. And for all that he was well liked by the people, he was remarkably cruel to those close to him. Both to his tenants, who he taxed very harshly in his upkeep, and of course to his own lady wife, who he locked in her room and basically kept prisoner for was about a decade, Lord, 7 years. And then Sir Condy, who we just covered. There's not really the character of Thaddy himself for consideration, who, I don't know, he's an odd one. I sort of want to say he's an unreliable narrator, but I mean, he's an unreliable narrator in the way he talks to the family. He obviously gives them a lot of praise. But the way it's sort of framed, and the way that it's talked about everyone sort of knowing these things, and how many of these things will be public events, it doesn't seem like he'd be lying about the broad strokes of things. It almost feels as though he is just representing the general view of the people, which... Actually, maybe that is it. He's representing the general view of the people, but he has the insider's perspective of all the horrible and stupid things they're doing. What does what do? Invoke the art purple. That's one of the summoning ones, isn't it, Lamp? What does that one? Oh, right, yeah. Oh no. Oh. Oh. Am I to come out now? Well then. What is it I can be telling you then? Who has summoned me? Ah, friend Nazca. Are we acquainted before? I don't know if we are. And allow me to introduce myself. I am ancient. I am... How would you understand? Ah, yes. Within this idea I am a spirit, something that knows many things. An old one. I have seen them walk the world for a long time. I think the invocation you have used is meant to be used to ask me questions. So tell me, friend Nazca, what is it you would like to know? I being summoned here for your amusement and pleasure. What is it that I can do for you? You seek knowledge of the old world, secrets told and known. You seek an older eye in the commentary on this text, which I will say not Maria Edgeworth's best. You have summoned me now. What is it you have of me? The invocations, well, I'm not the best one to tell you of them, but I can tell you what I know. These invocations that are placed there are for you to further your education in the study of magic, at least as I understand it. At least that's what they're put in place for by, what's his name? The Archmages, the lamp, as it were. So if you call upon each one of the spirits that infest the library will be summoned. For the blue, it's the lamp himself, and he'll come forth and talk to you on the matters. If you do the red one, it's that thing trapped inside the book, the spirit of oblivion. If you call upon the green one, it's the spirit that's meant to be, what's the term, forward-facing? He engages with the world as you engage with the world, believes the same things you do, thinks himself to be some sort of puppeteer of the little rat behind the whole thing. And then there's I. Old, though not old in the way of the void spirit. I am ancient, as they call me here. and I have walked this world for 8,000 years. Seen all and done all. If you summon us, it is expected that you'll ask questions, or have some meaning to it. Of course, you can also just have us do the normal thing, press on with stories and secrets, move about the library and do our own. That is what I know of the invocations. Now, have you any other questions? It's a little bit tricky to say exactly. As best I can figure it, I stand around about 8,000 years old, having been born circa 6,000 BC, that is before the Common Era. To give you a little bit more of an idea of the fact, I was born before metallurgy was invented or discovered by man. Though it was discovered within my first, what would be a single mortal lifetime of my being born. I remember the building of Babylon, having been born in the place that would be, by today's standards, called Sumeria. The cradle of civilization, by some accounts. That was a long time ago, though. That was a long time ago. Should we have a story? Better questions for next time. Fair enough. Yes. We're to have stories, aren't we? That's right. What is it here? Castle Rackrent, which is done, and perhaps ghost stories by M.R. James. Well, we have some ghost stories by James. But let's do a story otherwise, shall we? Too much reading goes on here. It's a shame, really, something's lost of late. Once upon a time it was that folks would tell stories, not just from books or from their understanding of things that have been written down, but keep the old tradition, the oral tradition, alive, speak of things that were or was or could be. So shall I tell you a story then, folks? A story of my own, an old story. And if so, from whence should it be? Would you know of my past 8,000 years ago? Would you know of my past 100 years ago? Would you know of the age of sail, or the great Greeks, of Alexander and his imperial ambitions? Would you know of the Tsars of Russia? Or all the secret ages that passed in the Bronze Age, the coming of the sea people to drive forth the people of the land, of ruin or war or treasure or love? I have 8,000 years of stories to tell, so what stories would you have? Oh, many of them only I would know. But let's see, what's a good one than that? I suppose there's one that comes to mind. The Journey of the Chardas. This would have been, what by the Madden calendar? Somewhere around the 700s BC? At the time I was a sailor off of Mycenae, what would become Greece later on. And I travelled with a crew that sailed out of some of the colonies of the Phoenicians. We shipped goods, pickled fruits, olive oil, wine. We were a small craft, perhaps 30 men. A few rows of oars, by sail when we could. We mostly kept to the coastal waters, trading along the peninsulas and islands. It was a good life, fine little ship, the Chardas. Nothing special. And time was, misfortune came along. There's nothing quite like a storm at sea, if you've never had one. And perhaps more so on a sailing boat. There's nothing you can do about a storm at sea. You become as powerless as any insect, as powerless as anything, blown and brushed by the tides, washed by waves and flattered by storm. Lightning strikes the water, and you can see it and count the seconds from it. It is never far enough away. And you're tossed to and fro, and ropes snap and sails break and masts crack. And all you can do is hold fast and pray and hope. And in the end 3 days passed, and we was set adrift on an ocean strange to us, with no idea where we was. A good part of the crew was lost, 6 men out of perhaps 30, and the rest about half was laid up in bed, battered or injured or sick. Now we had provision for a good while. No sensible man sails upon a boat without at least a month's provision, and between the trade goods we had stocked, fruit and wine, we would last a little while more. Well, a fair while more, I should say. 3 months at the outside. So we set to, and we tried to go by the stars. The stars were strange here. Now the world back in these days was different than it is today. People talk of magic and myth and monsters as if they were superstition. And there's some good deal of superstition too. But so too the world worked as people believed it worked, the same as it always has and always shall. And in those days magic were real and true. Every man had seen it. Every man knew monsters roamed the world, and that there were strange things unknown to us. And for all the great rises of civilization, man was still very aware that he was small. And so we came to a strange ocean, and the stars was different. And we sailed them as best we could, kept straight course by them, close as you can at least. And for 3 weeks we sailed, and came across only a single spit of land. And this land were an island, perhaps 100 paces around, and upon it grew 2, 3 trees, what I would call palms nowadays, though none of us knew them then. And it was arid and rocky and barren, and still half the men decided they would stay there. Decided it was better to have some chance than none. And we had some grains and seeds that might be grown, and they had fish that they could catch, make line and spears. And so we set off again, the half of us who chose to continue on, though not without a little bit of conjecture. There was some combat over whether the ship should remain as material. Well, suffice to say that when we left the dozen who chose to go, there were only 9 fit to sail. And so things were tight. 9 men on a ship crewed for 30. No use of the oars at all, of course. The sails, like I said, one mast cracked, hard to use, the other rigged and spliced together of cracked ropes and torn ones. We made poor time. 3 more weeks passed, and 3 more after that. The food running low, the supplies scarce. We fished what we could, but the water was not kind. And the weather was not kind at all times. Not with a storm, though, but much of it we were becalmed. Beneath strange stars. Ne'er able to sleep for fear that a wind should raise and we need to catch it. Ne'er able truly to rest. Always awake, always aware, always working, starving, dying, drinking only wine not watered down, for we had no clean water to water it. Going mad. I don't know how much longer it was when we saw sight of land. I stopped counting the days after those 12 weeks. The food almost gone, the men half crazed. Decided we did. The weakest of us saw it. J-Man. He was resting against the bow. Couldn't stand, so he leaned, staring forward endlessly at the blue. Mad, we thought. And so when he calls land, we don't give him any mind. We just sail on. And is it an hour or 2 later that we catch sight of it ourselves? And we make towards it, but the wind dies off again. And there we sit. I know not for how long. Days, perhaps? I don't think it can have been a week. We wouldn't have lasted a week. But we sit there, land in sight, the 9 of us, no food, no drink but the last of the wine, the dregs and bitterest. All of us half drunk, half mad, sun-baked. It is a bad thing to be becalmed on the ocean. A hard thing indeed, and... well, as I said, it was an old time, an odd time. Men knew magic was real, men knew monsters was real. And they knew the gods were real too. Not the gods of the old land, not Zeus and Poseidon. The stars were strange here. There were no gods we knew to make offerings. They would be strange gods, unknown gods, foreign gods. But there is one thing that always the gods covet. One thing they will always listen to. And so he strung up Jamal by the last of the spare rope, hung him by his legs from the mast as he struggled and fought. And the captain drew his knife across the man's throat, and his lifeblood poured into the ocean. And we gave prayer and cry in all the languages we knew, us traders, in pigeons and foreign tongues, and half-forgotten ancient languages of mine. Every word we could inciting the gods to come to our aid. By the time we made it to shore, not by wind but by tide, there was 5 of us left. 5 men of us, mad, starved, dehydrated, sun-baked. And it was a strange land we come to. Dense and lush, like a jungle, like a forest, I should say. But the foliage strange. It was a jungle in truth, I should say. Though not of a type any of us had ever seen before. Even I, widely travelling. Men who used to joke I knew everything, I had never seen such a place. We still might have died there, feet on dry land at least, some small comfort. But there was sound of running water, and so we pushed on ourselves, found strength we knew not that we had, and we pushed on towards a river we could hear in the distance, though not see. And we made it there, too close to the ocean for safety really, brackish water, but we drank all of it all the same. Drank deep and clear from the river, and had a great thirst on us. And then we lay down and rested and slept. First real sleep of God knows months. And one of us never woke again. Something bit him, we think. He had a small wound, and we decided that it was the poison that got to him. I suspect in the truth it was just the exhaustion. You cannot rise too easily. The shock of the water might have done it. Or illness. Or some other countless septic wounds that we all had. But he died there. We had not the strength to bury him. Now back in the day, men knew more of the land than what you could eat and what you could not. But as I say, this was a strange land to us. The plants was unknown, the animals unknown. We did not know what was safe. So we turned the only thing we knew, and we began to fish. We still had our knives of bronze, dulled though they were, and so we carved new spears. We took what we could from the boat as we had chance to get it, though there was little enough at that point. A single vessel for water for each man, another empty for food, the spare clothing we could salvage, and I took a spare of sandals off a man who was around my size. And we left. We walked up the river. And it was a large river, not a great river, not one of the world's great rivers, but a good 15 feet across, deserving of the name, with a current to note. And as we walked along it, we spared as we could for fish. And there were plenty of life in the river. Did not seem to know man, it didn't. It was strange. But we made our way up, and we had the idea that if we followed the river, eventually we'd come to people. Rivers are a way of preserving life and giving it. And so we walked up the river, 2 days, 3,
cooking what fish we could get, regaining our strength a little bit. The four of us was almost in high spirits when, on the 5th day, something came out of the water. Now I knew what a crocodile was, I'd seen them before. And the men had an idea, though I don't know that any of them had seen one, but none of us were expecting it. I wasn't looking out. So when the alligator came out of the water and took the captain, took him by his leg and dragged him down, none of us was ready for it. And by the time we was moving, he was out in the deep water. And the current would have washed us away, weak as we was, and we had only wooden spears for fishing. So all we could do was watch as he was pulled down beneath the water. And 3 men we was. And we walked on for a few more days, for a week, for 2 weeks. And the further we got from the coast, the less sure we was. We saw no sign of man, no sign of habitation. Sure, there was about, perhaps, but not here, not in this place. And in time there was a disagreement. I thought we should go back toward the coast. Thought that we'd have better luck there. We knew the fishing better, knew the waves, knew the search of being a sailor at least. We knew the way. And one of the men disagreed with me and one of them wasn't sure. Until eventually he decided we should set away from the river and walk out into it. And there was some disagreement and heated words and, well, it's hard to convey to you, perhaps if you've never been through the experience, what it's like to be tired and hungry and dehydrated and sunburnt, and all this all the time, and to have spent days sleeping on hard ground. When we were none of us at the best of our spirits, none of us in the clearest of minds. I couldn't say who went first, who drew their knife. But we fought with those bronze sailors' knives that men still carry sometimes today, for their ability to stave off the rust. And he cut me deep and high on my shoulder, just below it, across the blade, and I stabbed him between 2 of his ribs, into something vital. I didn't tell you exactly what. And I'd like to tell you he bled out there, that he died of it. Would have been better if he had, but no. Clarity comes when blood spills. It snaps you out of it sometimes. When we moved fast and we bandaged it, we stopped up the wound. And now, so weak as he was more than happy to consent with me to go back to the coast, so we made our way. But he was badly done for. 3 days he spent sickening and dying, rotting. On the morning of the 4th day, I went to change the bandage we had made out of an old shirt, and I could smell the wound had gone septic. Could smell that he was gone for. It would be a kindness. And so I put him down. Pushed his body into the water. The other man might not know, might hold his spirits, but he knew. He didn't trust me. I'd been sailing with the crew there for 18, 19 years at that point. Knew all of those men, at least 3 of them. 3 years. Worked together in trust and all such. And now I thought I would kill him in the night. And I had nothing to gainsay him. And when he ran off, I didn't follow him. I left him go out into the jungle away. And who knows, maybe he found his way, somewhere. Found his way to the people. Maybe there's someone out there who knows the story, who had it passed down onto them over 2,700 years. But I doubt it. I doubt it indeed, knowing now what I know about the place we wound up at. But I made my way back to the ocean. And for must have been 7 years I spent my time there. Built a little house, fished, learned some of the what was safe to eat locally from the creatures that would eat it. Made my way. Ate some things that were poisoned, but didn't bother me so much, given I can't die. Now, after 7 years and some constructing of tools out of old things and making together, I managed to make fast a proper, well, a smaller boat. What you might call a yacht these days, I suppose, though it was nothing so elegant as all that. And haven't seen no man for 7 years, and having no hope in the world of ever staying sane if I set to do even one more, I launched on a fine spring day, out from the mouth of the river, and into the ocean. And I followed the stars, still strange to me, but familiar enough now, away from that land, in a straight line. And I followed it for as long as my supplies held out, and then for as long as the fish held out, and then as long as I could between bouts of madness from drinking salt water and starvation. And to this day I could not tell you how long it took me to wash up on shores again. It's very hard to say, for the land I wound up in was strange to me still. I did not speak the tongue, and the men there thought me a corpse, till such a time as they happened to catch me in the rainfall and I was revived. Then they called me a draugr, for that was their name for the undead, the restless dead. And it's some years in running, an outlaw or a strange thing or a monster, in the land nowadays known as Denmark. Anyhow, that's the story of how I, around 1700 years before Leif Erikson and his fame, managed to discover the continent of America and escape again. How's that for a story no one else knows, eh? How's that for a story indeed? You're welcome. What's the time? Then the hour grows on. I could bring the rat back for a ghost story, I suppose, but I think not. I think I should stay a while, have a moment to myself for a change. Go parial again and down here. So, what shall we do then? I suppose we shall end it here. I thank you all for coming, paying time for the rat down here. It's strange the place I found myself up, but it's something. You're all very welcome for the story, and I hope you enjoyed what you got from the rodent as well. I expect I shall be gone by the time you next see this, but I do wish you all a good evening, and a word of advice to you. Time is precious, no matter how much you have of it. Seize it where you can. Go out and do something that is good to you, and that you enjoy. You shall regret it if you do not. Anyhow, with that I bid you farewell.